Maya World is the new TBS champion, Andrade is the new national champion, and Willow Nightingale is the new AEW Women's World Champion. That and so much more as we go over the first ever AEW Redemption. We open up the night with a 6-way ladder match for a shot at the International Championship. Mortos would press slam Speedball on a ladder, Speedball would moonsault off the top of the ladder onto everyone, Jack Perry would Hurricane Rana Mortos through a table, El Clone would stomp Speedball through a table, and Commander would hit the Spaceman on Nick Wayne through a table. Nick Wayne would hit a Phoenix Splash off a ladder onto El Clone through a table. Jack Perry would hit a Canadian Destroyer on Nick Wayne on a wedged ladder. And in the end, Speedball Mike Bailey would win the match, and now has a shot at the International Championship, which him and Kyle Fletcher have amazing chemistry, so I'm definitely excited for this. The match itself was good, but honestly it looked like everyone was more worried about hitting spots than actually winning the match. There were so many opportunities for someone to win while everyone else was busy, but still a good opener for Redemption. Next up is Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay versus the Young Bucks. It's crazy to think that last year Jon Moxley almost ended Will Ospreay's career, and now Will Ospreay's making his entrance with that same man. Will and Nick would collide heads and they're both stunned. Will wants the refs to check on Nick, but Mox tells him to kill these motherfuckers, there's no time for sympathy. Nick would return to the match and it seems like Matt's gonna tag him in, but Moxley says fuck that and hits him with a pile driver on the outside. The Bucks would hit the BTE trigger on Moxley, but Ospreay would hit a hidden blade to break the pin. The fatigue would settle in on Nick and he collapses, and Ospreay would look to pull the trigger, but Matt would save his brother. Moxley would tag himself in and he locks in the Bulldog choke, and he elbows Nick in the back of the head. Moxley would grab a chair to attack Nick, but Ospreay would stop him, and the Young Bucks would super kick the chair into Ospreay's face. And that mistake would allow the Young Bucks to hit multiple super kicks on Jon Moxley to win the match. Great match. The Young Bucks have been on an absolute tear this year, and the story of Will Ospreay not being able to pull the trigger when he had the chance was great. Next up was Kyle Fletcher versus Bandido for the AEW International Championship. Kyle will powerbomb Bandido on the apron. Kyle drops Bandido on his neck with a brainbuster on the apron. Bandido would go for a half and half suplex, but Fletcher would try and throw him off, but Bandido would rebound and hit a 21-plex dragon suplex. Bandido would powerbomb Fletcher onto the outside, and Bandido would follow up with a frog splash on the floor. Fletcher would hit Takesha's power drive knee and would hit the brainbuster, but Bandido would kick out. But in the end, Kyle Fletcher would hit the top rope brainbuster to win the match and retain his International Championship. What a fucking match. It's exactly what I expected from two of the very best AEW has to offer, and Kyle Fletcher did this without the Don Callis family. Kyle Fletcher is undeniable. Next up is the Bang Bang Gang versus the Dogs in a double chain match. The Bang Bang Gang hangs the Dogs by the wrist and they beat the shit out of them. Connors would wrap the chain around the ring post and chokes Juice. The Deathriders would come to help the Dogs, but the rest of the Bang Bang Gang would come to help their friends. But while that happens, Marina Shafir would hand Finley the shillelagh, and Finn would hit Juice with a shillelagh to pick up the victory. I was expecting the Bang Bang Gang to win this, but this was still a meh match. Backstage, Ospreay tells Moxley he's not trying to kill anybody and it was just a regular match. Moxley says Wembley is not just another match. He tells him he gets one chance, and Moxley says if he doesn't pull the trigger, he will. Next up is Hikaru Shida versus Maya World for the TBS Championship. I unfortunately wasn't paying attention to most of this match. I was dealing with something while it was going on. Shida would hit 3 knee strikes and would hit the Falcon Arrow, but Maya had her hand on the ropes. Shida would be furious with the ref, and that would allow Maya to hit the bridging fallaway slam to win the match and win the TBS Championship. I was not expecting this, but what a moment for Maya World. The TBS Championship is the perfect title for Maya World to show what she's capable of. What a moment and what a birthday present for Maya World. Next up is Christian Cage and Adam Copeland versus the Deathriders for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Deathriders would attack Cage and Cope before the bell could ring, but in the end, Cage would catapult Pac into a spear by Cope, and Cope and Cage would pick up the victory to retain their Tag Team Championships. I love Cope and Cage, they're undisputed legends, but there's no way the Deathriders don't kill these guys. It kinda sucks seeing them be destroyed, knowing they're just gonna win in the end anyway. After the match, the Bucks would come out and call their shot for the Tag Team Championships, and it's official already. These two will go at it at All In for the Tag Team Championships. Next up is the Painmaker versus Tommaso Ciampa in a no-holds-barred match. Jericho would use pocket sand, making Dale from King of the Hill happy. Jericho uses a fire extinguisher on Ciampa. Jericho would suplex Ciampa onto thumbtacks and hockey pucks. Jericho would hit a Death Valley driver through a barbed wire table. Jericho would bring out a mirror, and Ciampa would put Jericho through the mirror, but Jericho would kick out. Jericho would bring out a second mirror with barbed wire, and he would hit Ciampa on the back back with it, and Jericho would put on a thumbtack elbow pad and he would hit the Judas effect. Jericho would pull out a drill and he uses it on Ciampa's head, and Ciampa would have to give up. Pretty good and violent match, but Ciampa definitely needed the victory more than Jericho did. Backstage, Mick Foley would be with the Divine Dominion, and I've never wanted to be Mick Foley more than I do now. The Dominion says there's no more tag teams for them to face, but Foley says they haven't beaten the Brawling Birds yet, and the Dominion tells Mick Foley to bow down, and he does what I would probably do in this situation. Next up is Mark Davis versus Andrade El Idolo for the AEW National Championship. Andrade comes out looking cooler than ever. Andrade immediately hits a back elbow and nearly wins the match in seconds, but Davis would kick out. And in the end, Andrade would hit the DM to win the match and win the AEW National Championship. Andrade captures his first title in AEW, which is very long overdue. Congratulations to Andrade. How you know, motherfucker? Next up is Thekla versus Willow Nightingale for the AEW Women's World Championship. Mercedes will be watching on, seeing who she'll face at All In. Willow would pounce Thekla outside of the ring, and she's fired up early. Willow will try and cannonball into Thekla against the steel steps, but Thekla would move, and that would allow her to hit the curb stomp on the outside. Thekla would DDT Willow on the apron. Thekla would go for the spear, but Willow catches her, and Willow would hit a gut-wrench powerbomb, but as she goes for the cover, Sky Blue would put Tekla's foot on the ropes, and Willow would chase Sky Blue onto the outside and hits her with a powerbomb, but that would allow Thekla to hit the spear. Thekla would go for the curb stomp, but Willow would move out of the way, and she rolls up Thekla, and she wins the match and wins the AEW Women's World Championship. Let's fucking go! Willow more than deserves this. I can die a happy man now. Willow has done everything you can in AEW. She's won the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, the TBS Championship, was one half of the inaugural Women's Tag Team Champions, and now Women's World Champion, making her the first ever Women's Grand Slam Champion in AEW. Willow would celebrate with a conglomeration as Mercedes looks on to who she'll face at All In. And we move on to the main event, Kenny Omega versus Kevin Knight for the AEW World Championship. Kevin bashes Kenny's head into the announce table. Kenny would hit a Snapdragon suplex on the apron, then he would hit a Snapdragon suplex on the announce table. Kenny would hit a sunset flip powerbomb from the top rope. Kevin would grab both championships, and he uses the world title as a distraction, and he would hit the crash landing on the TNT Championship. But in the end, Kenny would hit the one-legged angel to win the match and retain his world championship. Pretty good match, and a very impressive performance from Kevin Knight. He is more than ready when the time comes for him to be a main event star. After the match, the Deathriders would attack Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks would try and protect Kenny, but the numbers are too much. They would wrap a chair around Kenny's neck, but Ospreay would stop him before anything bad could happen. Moxley gets into the ring and he takes the chair away from Ospreay, and he pulls out a plastic bag, wanting Will to put the bag around Kenny's head. But Ospreay tears up the plastic bag and hits John Moxley, and takes out the Deathriders. It seems like Ospreay's gonna do things the right way. Ospreay would hand Kenny the championship, and he shakes his hand. And as Ospreay and Will are on the top rope celebrating, Kenny would hit Ospreay with a one-winged angel, showing that Kenny isn't afraid to pull the trigger. And the show ends with Kenny and the Young Bucks on top. And that was the first ever AEW Redemption. It was good, but it did feel like this was just a filler pay-per-view. I mean, there were some great moments. That ladder match was good. The Will Ospreay Moxley Bucks tag team match was good. Bandido and Kyle Fletcher's got me rock hard. Maya World winning the TBS Championship is a great moment. Andrade winning the National Championship's great. Kevin Knight and Kenny Omega's match was great. But what would have benefited this pay-per-view a lot is if it wasn't so fucking long and all these matches were epics. Tony Khan, I love you, and I love that you want to give us our money's worth, but not every fucking match has to be an epic. Even though this started earlier at 7 o'clock, it still ended around fucking midnight. I mean, this had 10 matches. This did not need 10 matches at all. They could have taken a lot off of that. There's an old saying, quality over quantity. I mean, this pay-per-view was still good, I enjoyed it, but it's definitely one of the weaker ones they've had in recent memory. But tell me what you all think of AEW Redemption in the comments. Most importantly, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'll make more silly videos like this in the future, so stop on by when the time comes. But until then, be careful.